Lena never believed in fate. She believed in mistakes. And the biggest one she ever made began with a voice note sent to the wrong number at 2:47 in the morning. She had been awake for hours. The kind of awake that comes when your body is too tired to sleep and your mind too loud to rest. Her phone glowed in the darkness of her cramped apartment, the only light in a room filled with shadows and unpaid bills scattered across the coffee table. The eviction notice sat on top like a crown of thorns. She had been crying, not the loud, dramatic kind, but the silent kind that leaves your chest hollow and your throat raw. The kind that makes you wonder if anyone would notice if you simply stopped existing. Her fingers moved without thought. She opened her messaging app, found her ex-boyfriend's contact, the man who had promised her the world and left her with nothing but debt and shame, and pressed record. Her voice was soft, broken, honest. "I don't know why I'm doing this," she whispered into the phone. "Maybe because it's late and I'm tired of pretending I'm okay. Maybe because I need you to know what you did to me. You left me with nothing. You took everything and walked away like I was nothing." Her voice cracked. She swallowed hard. "I hope you're happy. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're doing, it's worth what you took from me. Because I'm still here. And I'm still trying to survive what you left behind." She hit send before she could change her mind. Then she turned off her phone and stared at the ceiling, waiting for sleep that wouldn't come. She didn't notice the number. Didn't see that autocorrect had changed a single digit. Didn't realize that her pain, her vulnerability, her midnight confession had been sent not to the man who broke her, but to someone else entirely. Someone who didn't know her name. Someone who didn't know her face. Someone who, in less than an hour, would be standing outside her door. Before we go on, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. Lena woke to the sound of knocking. Not the polite kind. Not the tentative tap of a neighbor asking to borrow sugar. This was firm, deliberate, the kind of knock that said, "Asterisk, I know you in there, asterisk." Her eyes snapped open. The room was still dark. Her phone read 3:52 a.m. The knocking came again. Her heart began to race. She sat up slowly, her body stiff from sleeping on the couch. Her mind scrambled through possibilities. Landlord? Police? Debt collectors didn't come at 4 in the morning. Did they? She crept to the door, her bare feet cold against the tile. She didn't turn on the light. She pressed her eye to the peephole. A man stood in the hallway. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in black. His face was half-shadowed, but she could see enough. Sharp jawline, dark eyes that seemed to look directly through the door and into her. He knocked again. Her breath caught in her throat. "Lena Torres," he said. His voice was calm. Too calm. "Open the door." She stumbled backward. How did he know her name? "I'm not here to hurt you," he continued, as if reading her thoughts. "But we need to talk. About the voice note you sent me an hour ago." Her stomach dropped. The voice note. Oh God. The voice note. Her hands trembled as she unlocked the door, her mind racing through every worst-case scenario. She opened it just a crack. The chain still latched. The man looked at her. Really looked at her. Not with pity. Not with hunger. With something else. Something she couldn't name. "You sent this to me," he said quietly, holding up his phone. Her own voice played back, broken and raw, confessing her pain to a stranger. She wanted to die. I didn't mean to," she stammered. "It was an accident. I was trying to." "I know," he said. "You were trying to reach someone else." He slipped his phone back into his pocket. He didn't move to leave. "I'm Mateo Navarro," he said. The name rolled off his tongue like a warning. "And we need to talk about who you thought you were sending that message to." She stared at him. The name meant nothing to her. Should it? "I don't understand," she whispered. "You will," he said. "Let me in." And against every instinct screaming at her to slam the door, lock it, call the police, she stepped aside, because something in his voice told her that running wouldn't help, that whatever had begun the moment she pressed send could not be undone. He didn't sit. He stood in the center of her small living room, his presence filling the space like smoke. She stayed near the door, her arms wrapped around herself, suddenly aware of how thin her oversized t-shirt was, how exposed she felt. "Your ex-boyfriend," Matteo said, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the bills, the bare walls, the life barely held together. "What's his name?" "Why does it matter?" she asked, her voice shaking. "Because the number you tried to reach belongs to a man named Carlos Ibarra." He turned to face her. "And Carlos Ibarra owes me a considerable amount of money." The air left her lungs. Carlos. Of course. The man who had sweet-talked her into co-signing loans she couldn't afford. The man who had vanished 6 months ago, leaving her drowning in debt that wasn't hers. "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I swear, I didn't know he." "I believe you." Matteo's voice was steady. "Your voice note made that clear." She felt her cheeks burn with humiliation. A stranger had heard her at her lowest. A stranger now stood in her apartment in the middle of the night, knowing things about her life she wished she could erase. "What do you want from me?" she asked. He studied her for a long moment. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He set it on the coffee table. "That's $10,000, he said. "Enough to cover next month's rent and some of what he left you with." She stared at the envelope like it might explode. "I don't understand." "You don't have to." He moved toward the door. "Consider it compensation for the inconvenience." "Wait." She stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Why would you do that? You don't know me." He paused, his hand on the doorknob. When he looked back at her, something flickered in his eyes, something almost human. "Because you were right," he said quietly. "What he did to you wasn't fair, and I don't like loose ends." Then he was gone. The door clicked shut behind him. Lena stood frozen in the silence, staring at the envelope on her table. She didn't touch it. Not yet. Because something deep in her bones told her that taking that money would mean something, that it would tie her to him in ways she couldn't yet understand. But when morning came, and the eviction notice still sat on her table like a death sentence, she opened the envelope with shaking hands. And she knew, even then, that nothing would ever be the same. 3 days passed before she heard from him again. 3 days in which she paid her rent, bought groceries without counting every coin, slept through the night for the first time in months without waking in a panic. 3 days in which she tried to convince herself that Matteo Navarro had been a strange, surreal dream, a guardian angel who appeared and disappeared, leaving behind only evidence of his existence in the form of crisp bills that had saved her life. But on the 4th day, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered without thinking. "Lena." His voice poured through the speaker like dark honey. "I need you to do something for me." Her heart kicked against her ribs. "What kind of something?" "Carlos resurfaced," Matteo said. "He's been asking around about you, trying to figure out if you're still living at your address." Fear spiked through her chest. Why would he? Because he's desperate, and desperate men do stupid things. A pause. "I need you to meet with him." "What?" She nearly dropped the phone. "Are you insane?" "No." His tone was calm. Too calm. "I'm strategic. He won't talk to me, but he'll talk to you. He'll think you're still the broken girl he left behind. And when he does, I'll be close enough to finish what he started." "I'm not bait," she said, her voice shaking with anger now, not fear. "No," Matteo agreed. "You're not. But you're the only way I get to him before he runs again. And if he runs, Lena, he'll keep running. He'll keep using people. He'll keep destroying lives." She closed her eyes. She hated that he was right. Hated that Carlos was still out there, still free, still capable of doing to someone else what he'd done to her. "If I do this," she said slowly, "you promise you won't hurt me?" "I promise." 2 words, spoken with such certainty that she almost believed them. "Way," she asked. There's a cafe on Marisol Street. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. I'll send you the details. And you'll be there. I'll be close. His voice softened, just slightly. You won't see me, but I'll see everything. The line went dead. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone, trying to understand how her life had become something out of a thriller she wouldn't have believed a week ago. But she knew, deep down, that she would go. Because Mateo Navarro had given her something Carlos never had. A choice. The cafe was small, tucked into a corner of the city where tourists didn't wander and locals moved quickly, heads down, minding their business. The kind of place where conversations disappeared into the hum of espresso machines and the clink of ceramic cups. Lena sat at a table near the window, her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee she couldn't taste. She wore a plain sweater and jeans. No makeup. Her hair tied back. She wanted to look like the woman Carlos remembered. The woman he thought he'd broken. She didn't have to wait long. He walked in at 3:07, 7 minutes late. Just like he'd always been. Tall, lean, handsome in a way that had once made her heart race and now only made her stomach turn. He spotted her immediately. His smile was easy. Practiced. Lena. He slid into the seat across from her like no time had passed at all. Like he hadn't ruined her. You look good. She said nothing. His smile faltered. I know you're probably upset. Upset? She let out a hollow laugh. You left me with $30,000 in debt, Carlos. You destroyed my credit. I almost lost my apartment. He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Almost. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, he said, leaning forward, his voice dropping into that familiar, soothing tone. Things got complicated. I was going to come back. I was going to fix it. Were you? She tilted her head, studying him. Or were you just going to disappear again? His jaw tightened. I came here, didn't I? I reached out. Why? She asked. Why now? He hesitated, and in that hesitation, she saw it. The desperation Mateo had warned her about. I need your help, Carlos said finally. Of course he did. I got into some trouble, he continued. With some people I shouldn't have, and I need money. Just enough to get out of the city. Start over somewhere new. She stared at him, this man who had once whispered promises into her ear, who had made her believe in a future that never existed. You want me to give you money, she said flatly. I know it's a lot to ask. After what you did to me. Lena, please. His hand reached across the table toward hers. She pulled back. If I don't get out of here, they're going to kill me. Who? She asked. And there it was, the flicker of fear in his eyes. I can't tell you that. Then I can't help you. Lena. You made your choices, Carlos. She stood, her legs steadier than she expected. Now you have to live with them. She walked out of the cafe without looking back. She didn't see the black car parked across the street. Didn't see the man sitting in the driver's seat, watching through tinted windows. But she felt him. She felt Mateo's presence like a shadow at her back. And when she turned the corner and her phone buzzed with a single message, *, you did well, *, she knew that whatever web she'd stepped into, she was already tangled too tightly to break free. Lena didn't hear from Mateo for 2 days after the meeting with Carlos. 2 days in which she jumped every time her phone rang. 2 days in which she replayed the conversation in the cafe over and over, wondering if she'd said the right things, done what was expected of her. 2 days in which she felt the ghost of Mateo's eyes on her, even when she was alone. On the 3rd day, he called. Carlos is gone, he said without preamble. Her breath caught. Gone? What do you mean gone? He left the city. Mateo's voice was flat, unreadable. Last night. Took what little money he had and ran. Did you? She couldn't finish the question. No. A pause. I wanted to, but I decided he wasn't worth the bullet. Relief and something else, something darker, twisted in her chest. So it's over, she asked. For him, maybe. His tone shifted. For you? Not quite. Her heart sank. What does that mean? It means Carlos wasn't just running from me. He was running from others. People who don't forgive debts. People who don't care that you're just a girl he lied to. I don't understand. He used your name, Lena. On documents. On loans. He tied you to people who will come looking when those loans don't get paid. The room spun. She sat down hard on her couch, her phone pressed so tightly to her ear it hurt. How much? She whispered. More than you can pay. Then what am I supposed to do? Silence. Long and heavy. Then, you let me handle it. Why? Her voice broke. Why do you keep helping me? I'm nobody to you. I'm just some girl who sent you a voice note by mistake. Maybe, Mateo said quietly. Or maybe I see something in you that reminds me of someone I used to know. Who? Someone who didn't deserve what happened to her either. The line went dead before she could respond. Lena sat in the silence of her apartment, her mind racing. She didn't know what Mateo Navarro was, savior, manipulator, something in between, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. She was no longer in control of her own life, and maybe she never had been. A week later, Mateo showed up at her door again. This time, she didn't hesitate. She opened it immediately. He looked different, tired, the sharp edges of his face softened by something she couldn't name. He wore a dark coat, his hair slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it. Pack a bag, he said. She blinked. What? You're not safe here anymore. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, she saw something close to urgency. Carlos talked before he left. Told people where to find you. They are coming. Her blood ran cold. When? Soon. Where am I supposed to go? With me. The words hung between them like a loaded gun. I don't even know you, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. No, he agreed. But you know what happens if you stay. She looked past him, down the empty hallway of her building. The same hallway she'd walked 1,000 times. The same walls that had witnessed her crying, her fighting, her slow unraveling. Home. But home wasn't safe anymore. How long? She asked. I don't know. What do I tell people? My job? You tell them nothing. His voice was firm but not unkind. You disappear. Just for a while. Until I make this go away. And if you can't? He stepped closer. Close enough that she could see the faint scar along his jawline. Close enough that she could smell the faint scent of smoke and leather. I will, he said. And God help her. She believed him. She packed quickly. A duffel bag filled with clothes, toiletries, a few books she couldn't leave behind. She didn't have much. Carlos had taken care of that. Mateo waited by the door, his phone in his hand, his eyes scanning the hallway every few seconds. Ready? He asked when she emerged from her bedroom. She nodded, though nothing about this felt ready. They left through the back stairwell. His car was parked in the alley, black and sleek, the kind of car that whispered money and danger in equal measure. He opened the passenger door for her. She slid inside, her bag clutched on her lap like a shield. The engine purred to life. The city blurred past the windows as they drove through streets she recognized and then streets she didn't. Where are we going? She asked after a long silence. Somewhere safe. That's not an answer. It's the only one I have right now. She turned to look at him. His profile was sharp in the dim light, his jaw set, his hands steady on the wheel. Why are you doing this? She asked again. Really? He didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was quieter than she'd ever heard it. Because no one did it for her. Ha! My sister. He glanced at her briefly, then back at the road. She got mixed up with the wrong man. He made promises. She believed him. And when things went bad, no one helped her. No one stepped in. Lena's chest tightened. What happened to her? She died. 2 words. Flat and final. Alone. Scared. Thinking she deserved it. Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. I'm sorry, she whispered. Don't be. His hands tightened on the wheel. Just let me do this. She didn't argue. Because she understood now. She wasn't just a stranger to him. She was a second chance. They drove for hours. Out of the city. Through small towns that blinked past like ghosts. The sky darkened. The stars emerged. When they finally stopped, it was in front of a house. Not large. Not extravagant. Just a house tucked into the woods, surrounded by trees and silence. This is it, Matteo said, killing the engine. Lena stayed at it. This is yours. It's mine. He got out, grabbed her bag from the back seat, and led her to the front door. Inside, the house was warm, lived in. There were books on the shelves, a fireplace with fresh ash, a kitchen that smelled faintly of coffee. You'll stay in the guest room, he said, setting her bag down. Upstairs, second door on the left. She looked around, trying to process the strangeness of it all. A mafia boss with a cozy cabin in the woods. A man who killed for a living but kept books by the fire. What now? She asked. Now, he said, you rest, and I figure out how to keep you alive. He walked toward the kitchen, leaving her standing in the entryway, her heart pounding, her mind spinning. And as she climbed the stairs to the guest room, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want to leave. Not because she was afraid, but because for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel alone. If this story has already found a place in your heart, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more stories that stay long after they end. The first morning, Lena woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of rain against glass. She lay still for a moment, disoriented. The bed was soft, the room unfamiliar. The light filtering through the curtains was gentle, muted, like the world outside was holding its breath. Then she remembered. Matteo, the house, the danger she'd left behind. She sat up slowly, her body stiff from restless sleep. The guest room was simple but comfortable. Wooden furniture, cream-colored walls, a window that overlooked trees so thick they swallowed the horizon. She found him in the kitchen, standing by the stove with a mug in his hand. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater, his hair damp from a recent shower. He looked normal, almost ordinary, until he turned and she saw his eyes, still sharp, still watchful, still carrying the weight of things she couldn't imagine. Morning, he said. Morning. Her voice was hoarse from sleep. He poured her a cup of coffee without asking, handed it to her. She wrapped her hands around it, grateful for the warmth. How'd you sleep? He asked. Better than I expected. It was true. Despite everything, she'd slept. Deeply, without nightmares. He nodded, as if that was the answer he'd hoped for. They stood in silence for a while. The rain continued its steady rhythm. The house creaked softly, settling into itself. What happens now? She asked finally. You stay here, he said, out of sight, until I can clean up the mess Carlos left. How long will that take? I don't know. She took a sip of coffee. It was strong, bitter, perfect. I can't just disappear, she said. I have a job, bills, a life. Not anymore. His tone wasn't cruel, just factual. That life ended the moment Carlos used your name. The people looking for you don't care about your job or your bills. They care about collecting what's owed. And you're just going to make it go away. Yes. Why? She set down her mug, frustration bleeding into her voice. Why do you care this much? He met her gaze, held it. Because I can. It wasn't an answer. Not really. but it was all she was going to get. Days blurred together. Matteo left in the mornings, returned in the evenings. He never told her where he went or what he did. She didn't ask. She spent her days reading, cooking, walking the perimeter of the property. The woods were vast, quiet, dense enough to make her feel like the only person left in the world. Sometimes she saw him watching her from the window, not in a predatory way, just watching, as if making sure she was still there. In the evenings, they ate together, quiet meals with little conversation. He asked her small things, what she liked to read, how she took her coffee, if she missed the city. She answered honestly. She didn't know why, but lying felt wrong here. And slowly, imperceptibly, something shifted. The walls she'd built around herself, thick, high, necessary, began to crack. One night, she found him sitting by the fireplace, a glass of whiskey in his hand. The flames cast shadows across his face, making him look older, wearier. "Can I ask you something?" she said from the doorway. He glanced up. "Go ahead." "Your sister." She stepped into the room, hesitant. What was her name? He looked at her for a long moment. Then he said, "Sophia." "How old was she?" 23. His jaw tightened. "Same age you are now." Lena's breath caught. "She was smart," he continued, staring into the fire. "Smarter than me. She wanted to be a teacher. She loved kids, believed in second chances." "What happened?" "She fell in love." His voice was flat. With a man who promised her the world. He took everything from her. Her money, her dignity, her will to fight. And when she had nothing left to give, he left her. He paused. She didn't survive it. Tears slipped down Lena's cheeks before she could stop them. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I told you not to be." "I know, but I am anyway." He turned to look at her then, really look at her, and in his eyes she saw something raw, something unguarded. "You remind me of her," he said quietly. "Not just the situation, the way you carry yourself. Like you're still trying to convince the world you're worth something." "Aren't I?" "You shouldn't have to convince anyone." The words settled into her chest like stones. She sat down beside him, close enough to feel the warmth from the fire, far enough to keep the distance safe. "Thank you," she said. "For what?" "For seeing me." He didn't respond, but his hand moved, just slightly, until his fingers brushed hers, and she didn't pull away. If you've ever felt torn between fear and love, you'll understand her. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. 2 weeks passed. Lena stopped asking when she could leave. The question felt less urgent now, less real. She learned the rhythms of Matteo's life, the way he rose before dawn, moved through the house like a shadow, the way he checked his phone constantly, his jaw tightening when Satan names appeared on the screen. She learned that he drank his coffee black, that he read late into the night, that sometimes, when he thought she was asleep, he stood in the doorway of her room, just watching. Not like a predator, like a guardian. She should have been afraid. She knew that Matteo Navarro was not a good man by any conventional measure, that the hands that poured her coffee in the morning had done things she didn't want to imagine. But fear had become a complicated thing, because he'd never hurt her, never raised his voice, never looked at her with anything but a quiet, steady presence that made her feel less alone. And that, she realized, was the most dangerous thing of all. One afternoon, while Matteo was gone, Lena found herself in his study. She shouldn't have been there. She knew that, but curiosity had gnawed at her for days. She needed to understand who he really was. The room was sparse. A desk, a chair, shelves lined with books and files. She ran her fingers along the spines, reading titles. Philosophy, history, strategy, Then she saw it, a photo frame, turned face down on the desk. Her heart pounded as she picked it up, flipped it over. A young woman stared back at her. Dark hair, kind eyes, a smile that could light up a room. Sophia. Lena's chest tightened. She looked so much like Matteo. The same sharp features, the same intensity in her gaze. You shouldn't be in here. She spun around. Matteo stood in the doorway, his expression unreadable. I'm sorry, she said quickly, setting the frame down. I didn't mean to. It's fine. He stepped into the room, his eyes on the photo. You were curious. She was beautiful, Lena whispered. She was. He picked up the frame, studied it for a moment, then set it back down. She deserved better than what she got. So do you? He looked at her, surprised. You carry her like a weight, Lena said softly. Like you're trying to make up for something that wasn't your fault. It was my fault. His voice was sharp now. I knew the man she was with was dangerous. I warned her, and when she didn't listen, I stepped back. I let her make her own choices, and she died because of it. She died because someone hurt her, Lena said. Not because you weren't there. Same thing. No. She stepped closer. It's not. They stood inches apart now, close enough that she could see the tension in his jaw, the pain in his eyes. You saved me, she said quietly. Maybe you can't save her, but you saved me. His hand rose, slow, hesitant. His fingers brushed her cheek, so gently it made her heart ache. You're not saved yet, he murmured. Then save me. The words hung between them, an invitation, a plea, and then he kissed her. It wasn't rough, wasn't desperate. It was soft, careful, like he was afraid she might break. She kissed him back, because in that moment, she didn't care about the danger, didn't care about the life she'd left behind, didn't care that this man was supposed to be her captor, not her savior. She only cared that he made her feel alive. They pulled apart slowly. Matteo's hand lingered on her face, his thumb tracing her cheekbone. This is a mistake, he said, though his voice lacked conviction. Probably, she agreed. You should hate me. I know. But you don't. No. She looked up at him. I don't. He let out a shaky breath, stepped back. The distance between them felt like miles. I have to go, he said. There's something I need to take care of. When will you be back? Late. He turned to leave, then paused in the doorway. Lena. Yeah. Don't leave this house, no matter what. And then he was gone. She tried to wait up for him. She made dinner, though she had no appetite. She read, though the words blurred together. She paced the living room, watching the clock. Midnight came and went. 1 a.m. 2. At 2:47, the same time she'd sent that first voice note, she heard the front door open. She rushed to the entryway. Matteo stood there, his face pale, his shirt stained with blood. Her heart stopped. Are you hurt? She asked, her voice shaking. It's not mine. His voice was hollow. She helped him to the couch, her hands trembling. She didn't ask what happened. Didn't need to. She fetched water, a clean towel. She helped him out of his shirt, her breath catching at the sight of scars littering his torso. Old wounds. Evidence of a life lived in violence. He sat still as she cleaned his hands, his face, wiping away the evidence of whatever he'd done. You should go, he said finally. Back upstairs. Pretend you didn't see this. I'm not going anywhere. Lena. I'm not afraid of you. He looked at her then, really looked, and something in his expression cracked. You should be. Well, I'm not. She curled up beside him on the couch, her head on his shoulder. His arm came around her, hesitant at first, then firm. They sat like that until dawn. Two broken people holding onto each other in the quiet space between fear and something that felt dangerously close to love. The days that followed were different. Something had shifted between them. A line crossed. A truth acknowledged. Matteo stopped sleeping in his room. Most nights, he fell asleep on the couch, close enough that Lena could hear his breathing. She told herself it was for protection, that he was keeping watch. But she knew better. He touched her more often now. Small gestures, his hand on her shoulder when he passed, his fingers brushing hers when he handed her coffee, his eyes lingering on her face when he thought she wasn't looking. And she let him, because she craved it, the contact, the closeness, the feeling that she wasn't invisible anymore. One morning, she woke early to find him in the kitchen, cooking. "You cook?" she asked, surprised. He glanced over his shoulder, a hint of a smile on his lips. "I'm full of surprises." She sat at the table, watching him move through the space with quiet competence. He made pancakes, eggs, fresh fruit arranged on a plate like he actually cared how it looked. When he set the plate in front of her, she stayed at it. "What's the occasion?" she asked. "No occasion." He sat down across from her. "I just thought you should eat something that isn't cereal or instant noodles." She laughed. The sound surprised her. It had been so long since she'd laughed like that, genuine, unforced. His eyes softened at the sound. "Thank you," she said. "For breakfast." "For everything." He looked down at his plate, uncomfortable with gratitude in a way that made her chest ache. They ate in comfortable silence, the morning light streaming through the windows. Outside, birds sang. The world felt peaceful. Safe. It was an illusion. She knew that. But God, it was a beautiful one. That afternoon, Matteo's phone rang. She was in the living room, curled up with a book. She saw his entire body tense when he looked at the screen. "I need to take this," he said. His voice clipped. He stepped outside. She watched through the window as he paced the porch, his hand running through his hair, his jaw set. The conversation lasted 10 minutes. When he came back inside, his face was carved from stone. "What's wrong?" she asked. "Nothing." "Don't lie to me." He stopped, turned to face her. The weight in his eyes made her stomach drop. "They found out," he said. "Found out what?" "That you're here. With me." Her blood turned to ice. "How? Does it matter?" His voice was sharp now, angry. "They know, and now they're using it." "Using it how?" "As leverage." He moved to the window, staring out at the trees. "They want me to do something, and if I don't, they come for you." She stood, her legs unsteady. "What do they want you to do?" He was silent for a long moment. "Something I swore I'd never do again." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. "Matteo." "I need to think." He headed for the door. "Don't leave the house. Don't answer the phone. Don't do anything until I get back." "Where are you going?" "To buy us time." And then he was gone. She tried to stay calm. She made tea she didn't drink, read pages she didn't absorb, watch the sun crawl across the sky with agonizing slowness. Hours passed. The shadows grew long. Night fell. Matteo didn't come back. At midnight, she called his phone. It went straight to voicemail. At 1 a.m., she called again. Nothing. By 2 a.m., fear had consumed her completely. She stood at the window, staring out at the dark woods, her mind spinning through terrible possibilities. He was hurt. He was dead. He'd been taken. He'd left her here alone, trapped in this house in the middle of nowhere with people hunting her and no way to. Headlights. Her heart leapt. A car pulled up to the house. Not Matteo's. A different car. Larger. Black SUV. Terror flooded her veins. She backed away from the window, her mind racing. The phone. She needed the phone. She needed to. The front door opened. She spun around. Matteo walked in, followed by two men she didn't recognize. Large men. Dangerous men. Their eyes swept over her like she was merchandise. Matteo. Her voice trembled. It's okay. His face was unreadable. They're with me. Who are they? Associates. He moved past her, into the kitchen. We need to talk. The two men stayed in the living room, silent, watching her with expressions that made her skin crawl. She followed Matteo to the kitchen, keeping her voice low. What's going on? The deal I made, he said quietly. It bought us 48 hours. After that, I have to deliver. Deliver what? He looked at her, and in his eyes, she saw something that terrified her more than the men in her living room. Resignation. Information, he said. About people I've worked with. People I've protected. If I give it up, they'll leave you alone. They'll wipe Carlos's debt. You'll be free. And if you don't, then they take you, use you to get to me. And when they are done, he stopped, swallowed hard. You disappear. She felt the room tilt. What are you going to do? She whispered. He reached out, cupped her face in his hands. I'm going to save you, he said, even if it costs me everything. The men left an hour later. Matteo stood at the door, watching their tail lights disappear into the darkness. Lena stayed in the kitchen, her mind numb. When he finally came back inside, he looked older, worn down by decisions that had no right answers. You can't do it, she said. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not this time. He sat down across from her, his hands folded on the table. If I don't give them what they want, you die. And I won't let that happen. Even if it means destroying yourself. Yes. The simplicity of the answer broke her. Why? She asked, tears streaming down her face. Why would you do that for me? He looked at her with eyes that held too much pain, too much history. Because you're not her, he said quietly. And this time, I can save someone. She stood, moved around the table, and wrapped her arms around him. He held her tight, his face buried in her hair. I don't want you to save me if it destroys you, she whispered. Too late, he murmured back. I already decided. If your heart's racing too, take a breath. And don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below for more unforgettable love stories. They didn't sleep that night. They sat on the couch, her head on his chest, his arm around her shoulders, listening to the clock tick away the hours. 48, 4 to 7, 4 to 6. Time had become their enemy. Tell me something, she said into the darkness. What? Something good. Something from before. He was quiet for a long moment. Sophia used to make me birthday cakes, he said finally. Terrible ones. Lopsided and burnt on the edges. But she'd put so many candles on them that you couldn't see the cake anymore. Just light. Lena smiled against his chest. She sounds wonderful. She was. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you. His hand moved through her hair, gentle, repetitive. She would have told me I was an idiot for letting you get mixed up in this. Are you? Yes. Then why don't you let me go? His arms tightened around her. Because I'm selfish, he said. And for the first time in a long time, I don't want to be alone. She turned to look up at him. You're not alone, she whispered. And then she kissed him. This time, it wasn't soft. It was desperate, hungry, born from the knowledge that time was running out and nothing was promised. He kissed her back with the same intensity. His hands in her hair, her body pressed against his. They pulled each other closer, trying to erase the space between them. Trying to forget, just for a moment, that the world outside was waiting to tear them apart. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said. 3 words, spoken like a confession, like a curse. She should have been terrified by them. Instead, she felt something break open inside her chest. Something warm and devastating and true. "I love you too," she whispered back. And for the rest of the night, they held each other, because they both knew that when morning came, everything would change. Morning arrived like a sentence. Lane awoke in Matteo's arms, his breathing steady, his face peaceful in sleep. For a moment, she let herself pretend that they were normal, that they had time, that the world outside this house didn't exist. But reality was patient, and it always came back. She slipped out of his embrace carefully, moved to the window. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Beautiful, cruel in its indifference. 24 hours left. Maybe less. She heard him stir behind her. "You're awake," he said, his voice rough with sleep. Couldn't stay asleep. He came to stand beside her, his shoulder brushing hers. They stared out at the dawn together, two people caught in the space between what was and what could never be. "I need to tell you something," Matteo said. She turned to look at him. "The information they want," he continued. "It's not just about betraying people I've worked with. It's about exposing a network. People who trust me. People who will die if I give them up." Her stomach twisted. "How many?" 7. Maybe more. "Children. Some of them have families." He closed his eyes. "One has a daughter, 10 years old. If he goes down, she goes into the system." Lena's chest tightened. "You can't do it." "If I don't, you die." "Then let me die." "No." His voice was fierce now. "Don't say that." "Matteo." "I said no." He grabbed her shoulders, forced her to look at him. "I won't let that happen. I can't. Even if it means innocent people suffer." "Yes." The word was raw, honest, terrible, even then. She pulled away from him, her mind reeling. "That's not the man I fell in love with," she said. "Maybe you never knew who I really was. Or maybe you've forgotten." The words hit him like a physical blow. She saw it in the way his jaw clenched, the way his hands curled into fists. "What do you want from me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "I can't save everyone. I can only save you." "What if I don't want to be saved this way?" Silence. He stared at her like she'd just driven a knife into his chest. "Then you're asking me to watch you die," he said quietly. "No." She stepped toward him. "I'm asking you to find another way." "There is no other way." "There's always another way." "Not this time." She reached up, touched his face. He flinched, then leaned into her palm like a man starved for touch. "The man who saved me," she whispered. "The man who saw me when no one else did. He wouldn't give up this easily." "That man is a fool." "Maybe." She smiled sadly. "But he's my fool." The call came at noon. Matteo answered it in the study. Lena stood in the hallway, listening. "I need more time," Matteo said. A pause. 72 hours. "That's all I'm asking." Another pause. "Longer this time." "I understand. But if you want this done right, I need time to gather everything. Names. Locations. Proof." Lena's heart pounded. "Fine." Matteo's voice was cold now. 48 more hours. "But after that, I deliver. Or you get nothing." He hung up. When he emerged from the study, his face was unreadable. "What did they say?" she asked. "They gave us 2 more days." And then I give them what they want." He moved past her, headed for the door. "I need to make arrangements. Stay inside. Don't answer the door for anyone." "Matteo, wait." But he was already gone. She spent the afternoon searching. If there was another way, she needed to find it. She went through Matteo's study, careful not to disturb anything, looking for information. Names, contacts, anything that might help. She found files, documents, ledgers filled with numbers and code she didn't understand. And then she found a phone. Old, battered, hidden in the back of a drawer. She powered it on. It took a moment to boot up. When it did, there was only one contact saved. **emergency only. ***. Her finger hovered over the call button. This was a violation of trust. She knew that. Matteo had told her not to do anything. To wait. But waiting meant 7 people died. Maybe more. Waiting meant Matteo became someone he hated. She pressed call. It rang 3 times before someone answered. Who is this? A woman's voice. Sharp. Suspicious. My name is Lena Torres, she said quickly. I'm with Matteo Navarro. I need help. Silence. Then, where did you get this number? From his study. Please, I don't have much time. Someone is trying to force him to. Stop talking. The woman's voice was urgent now. Is he there? No. He left an hour ago. Good. Listen carefully. I'm going to send you an address. Go there. Tonight. Don't tell Matteo. Don't tell anyone. Why? Because if what you're saying is true, he's about to make the biggest mistake of his life, and you're the only one who can stop him. The line went dead. A text came through seconds later. An address. And a time. Midnight. She debated it for hours. Leaving meant betraying Matteo's trust. It meant going against his explicit instructions. But staying meant letting him destroy himself. At 11 p.m., she made her decision. She grabbed a jacket, checked the address on the phone, and slipped out the back door. The woods were dark, thick. She used the phone's flashlight to navigate, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. The address was 3 miles away. A small cabin, even more isolated than Matteo's. She knocked. The door opened immediately. A woman stood there. 50s. Silver hair. Sharp eyes that assessed Lena in seconds. You're the girl, the woman said. Yes. Come in. Quickly. Inside, the cabin was sparse. A table. 2 chairs. Nothing else. Sit, the woman commanded. Lena Saturday. My name is Elena Ruiz, the woman said. I worked with Matteo for 15 years. He saved my life once. I owe him everything. Then help me save his. Elena studied her for a long moment. He told you about Sofia, she said. Yes. Then you know why he's doing this. Yes. And you still want to stop him. I have to. Elena leaned back, a small smile on her lips. He chose well. What do you mean? Nothing. Elena pulled out a folder, slid it across the table. These are the names of the people he's planning to betray. I need you to memorize them. Why? Because there's another option. Dangerous. Likely to get you both killed. But it's the only way to save everyone. Lena opened the folder. 7 names. 7 faces. 7 lives hanging in the balance. What do I have to do? She asked. Elena smiled. You have to trust me. Before we close this chapter, take a moment, like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Every small gesture helps the next story find its way to you. Lena returned to the house at 3 in the morning. She slipped back inside the same way she'd left, her heart pounding, Elena's instructions echoing in her mind. The living room was dark, empty. Matteo wasn't home yet. She went upstairs, changed back into the clothes she'd been wearing earlier, and lay down on the bed. She stared at the ceiling, her mind racing through everything Elena had told her. The plan was insane, reckless, built on hope and timing and the faith that people would act the way Elena predicted. But it was a chance, and chance was all they had. She heard the front door open around 4 a.m. Matteo's footsteps on the stairs. Heavy, exhausted, he paused outside her door. She held her breath. Then he moved on, down the hall, to his own room. She waited until she heard his door close before she allowed herself to exhale. Tomorrow, everything would change. She just hoped they'd both survive it. Morning came too quickly. Lena found Matteo in the kitchen, staring at a cup of coffee like it held the answers to questions he couldn't ask. "Morning," she said softly. He looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed. He hadn't slept. "Morning." She poured herself coffee, sat across from him. The silence between them was heavy, weighted with things neither of them knew how to say. 36 hours left, he said finally. "I know." After that. "I know," she said again. He rubbed his face with both hands. "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For dragging you into this. For not being strong enough to find another way." She reached across the table, covered his hand with hers. "You are strong," she said. "Stronger than you think." He looked at her with eyes that held too much pain. "I love you," he said. "I need you to know that. Whatever happens, I know." She squeezed his hand. "I love you too." They sat like that for a while, two people holding onto each other in the quiet before the storm. Then Matteo's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. His entire body tensed. "I have to take this," he said. He walked into the study, closed the door. Lena stood, moved to the window. Her reflection stayed back at her. She looked different than she had a month ago. Stronger, harder, changed by everything that had happened. She thought about Elena's plan, about the risk, about what would happen if it failed. But she also thought about the alternative. 7 innocent people dead. Matteo destroyed. A future built on blood and regret. No, that wasn't an option. When Matteo emerged from the study, his face was pale. "They moved up the timeline," he said. Her stomach dropped. "What?" "They want the information tonight. Midnight. No more delays." "That's not enough time." "I know." His voice was hollow. "But I don't have a choice." "Yes, you do." She wanted to scream. "There's another way." But she couldn't tell him. Not yet. Elena had been clear. Matteo couldn't know. If he did, he'd try to stop her. And if he tried to stop her, people would die. "What do you need me to do?" she asked instead. He looked at her, surprised. "Nothing. You stay here. Stay safe." "No. Lena." "I'm coming with you." "Absolutely not. You don't get to decide this." Her voice was firm. "Whatever you're walking into, I'm walking into it with you. It's too dangerous." "I don't care." "I do." "Too bad." She crossed her arms. "I'm not letting you face this alone." They stayed at each other, a battle of wills. Finally, Matteo closed his eyes, defeated. "Fine," he said. "But you do exactly what I say. No arguments. No heroics. Deal." He pulled her into his arms, held her tight. "I'm going to get you through this," he murmured into her hair. "I promise." She closed her eyes. "I'm going to get you through this," she thought. "Even if you hate me for it." The rest of the day passed in a blur. Matteo spent hours in his study, making calls, gathering information. Lena watched the clock, counting down the hours until midnight. At 8 p.m., she received a text on the burner phone. Asterisk, asterisk, Elena, asterisk, 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 everything's in place. Remember the signal. Asterisk. Her hands shook as she typed back. Asterisk, I remember. Asterisk. Asterisk, asterisk, Elena, asterisk, 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 good. And Lena, whatever happens tonight, don't hesitate. Hesitation gets people killed. Asterisk. She deleted the messages, hid the phone. At 10 p.m., Matteo came to find her. "It's time," he said. She nodded, grabbed her jacket. They drove in silence. The city lights grew brighter as they left the woods behind. Traffic thickened. The world came back into focus, loud, chaotic, indifferent. Matteo pulled into a parking garage downtown. He killed the engine but didn't move. "Last chance," he said. You can still walk away. No, she said. I can't. He looked at her with eyes that held 1,000 regrets. I'm sorry, he said again. Stop apologizing. She leaned over, kissed him softly, and started fighting. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or defiance. He kissed her back, hard, desperate. Then they got out of the car and walked into the fire together. The meeting place was an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial district, the kind of place where bad things happened and no one asked questions. Matteo led her inside, his hand on the small of her back. Protective, possessive. The warehouse was dark except for a single light hanging in the center of the space. 3 men stood beneath it. She recognized one of them from the house. The other 2 were strangers. All of them radiated danger. Navarro, the tallest one, said, "You're Eiley." "I want this done," Matteo replied. "And you brought your pet." The man's eyes slid to Lena. "Sentimental." "She stays with me." "Fine." The man gestured. "You have the information." Matteo pulled out a USB drive, held it up. "Everything you asked for. Names, locations, evidence." The man smiled. "Good. Hand it over." This was it. The moment Elena had warned her about. Lena stepped forward. "Wait," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. Matteo's eyes went wide. "Lena, what are you?" "Before you take that," she continued, her voice steady despite her racing heart, "I think you should know something." The tall man's smile faded. "What?" "That drive is a fake." Chaos erupted. Matteo grabbed her arm. "What the hell are you doing?" "Saving you," she said. Then she looked at the tall man. "The real information is somewhere safe. And if you want it, you're going to have to negotiate. With me." The man stared at her. Then he started to laugh. "You've got balls, girl. I'll give you that." "I'm serious." "So am I." He pulled out a gun, aimed it at her head. "Where's the real drive?" Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. "Don't hesitate," Elena had said. She met the man's eyes. "You pull that trigger," she said, "and you'll never find it. Because the only person who knows where it is, she's waiting for my call. And if I don't call her in exactly," she glanced at her watch, 3 minutes, she sends copies to every law enforcement agency in the state. The gun didn't waver. "You're bluffing." "Try me." Silence. Thick. Suffocating. Then Matteo spoke. "She's not bluffing." His voice was quiet. "Deadly. And if you hurt her, I'll kill every single one of you before you take another breath." The man's eyes flicked between them. Then, slowly, he lowered the gun. "What do you want?" he asked. Lena exhaled. "I want a new deal." The gun was still in the tall man's hand, but it hung at his side now, no longer pointed at her head. Lena's pulse thundered in her ears, but she kept her expression neutral. Calm. She couldn't let them see her fear. "A new deal," the man repeated, his voice edged with amusement. "And what makes you think you're in a position to negotiate?" "Because you need what I have," Lena said. "And because I'm offering you something better than names and evidence." He tilted his head. "I'm listening." She pulled the Boehner phone from her pocket, held it up. "I know who's been feeding information to the feds. I know which of your associates are planning to flip. And I know how to plug the leaks before they sink you." It was a lie, a carefully constructed one, built from the fragments of information Elena had given her and the files she'd seen in Matteo's study. But she sold it with every ounce of conviction she had. The man's eyes narrowed. "How would you know that?" "Because Carlos Ibarra talked. A lot. Before he ran." She paused, let the weight of the name settle. "He gave me files. Insurance," he called it, "in case something happened to him." "And why would you give that to us?" "Because I want out." Her voice didn't waver. "I want the debt erased. I want Carlos forgotten. And I want you to leave Matteo alone." That's a big ask. It's a fair trade. The man considered her for a long moment. Then he looked at Matteo. She always this brave? Or this stupid? Both, Matteo said tightly. His hand was still on Lena's arm, his grip like iron. She could feel the tension radiating off him. He was furious, terrified, barely holding it together. The tall man chuckled. I like her. He turned back to Lena. But here's the problem, sweetheart. I don't trust you, and I don't trust Navarro. So before we make any deals, I need proof. I'll give you proof, Lena said. But not here. Not now. You give me 24 hours. I'll deliver everything you need. Names, dates, documents, everything. And if you run, then you hunt me down and kill me. She said it simply, like it was obvious. But I won't run, because I want this over. The man studied her. She could see him weighing options, calculating risks. Finally, he nodded. 24 hours, he said. But if you're playing me, girl, I'll make sure you regret it. Slowly. I understand. Good. He holstered his gun. Don't disappoint me. Then he and his men walked out, their footsteps echoing through the empty warehouse. The moment they were gone, Matteo spun her around. What the hell was that? He hissed. A chance, she said. A death sentence. His hands were shaking. You just put a target on your back. Do you have any idea what you've done? Yes. She met his eyes. I saved 7 people, including you. He stared at her. Disbelief, fury, fear. The files, he said slowly. Do they even exist? Yes. Where? With someone I trust. Who? It doesn't matter. Lena. It's done, Matteo. Her voice was firm. The deal is made. Now we just have to follow through. He turned away from her, his hands in his hair, his breathing ragged. You shouldn't have done this, he said. I know. I told you to stay out of it. I know. You could have been killed. I know. She stepped closer, touched his back. But I wasn't, and now we have a chance. He turned back to her, and the look on his face nearly broke her. I can't lose you, he said, his voice cracking. I can't. She pulled him into her arms, held him as tightly as she could. You won't, she whispered. I promise. She just hoped it was a promise she could keep. They drove back to the house in silence. Matteo's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles were white. His jaw was set, his eyes fixed on the road. Lena stared out the window, watching the city lights blur into darkness as they left civilization behind. Her phone buzzed. A text from Elena, *, well done. Tomorrow night, 8 p.m. bring everything. *. She deleted the message. Who was that? Matteo asked. No one. Don't lie to me. She turned to look at him. I'm not lying. I'm protecting you. I don't need protecting. Yes, she said softly. You do. He didn't respond, but she saw the muscle in his jaw twitch. When they finally pulled up to the house, he killed the engine but didn't move. I need to know who's helping you, he said. Matteo. I need to know, Lena, because if this goes wrong, I need to know who to trust. She hesitated. Elena had warned her not to tell him, but looking at him now, seeing the fear and desperation in his eyes, she couldn't keep lying. Elena Ruiz, she said quietly. His head snapped toward her. Elena. She contacted me. Or I contacted her. I'm not sure, but she has a plan. And if it works, no one has to die. Elena doesn't do plans, Matteo said. She does miracles, and miracles don't happen in our world. Maybe they do. Lena reached for his hand. Maybe we just have to believe in them. He looked down at their intertwined fingers. When he spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. I don't know how to do this, he said. How to let you take this risk. You don't have to let me, she said. I'm taking it anyway. He laughed. A short, bitter sound. You're going to be the death of me. Or the saving of you. He pulled her close, kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I love you, he murmured against her mouth. So much it terrifies me. Good, she whispered back. I'd hate to be terrified alone. The next day felt like walking through a dream. Everything was too sharp, too bright, too fragile. Matteo made breakfast. They ate in silence. He kept glancing at her like she might disappear if he looked away too long. At noon, Elena called the burner phone. Tonight, she said. Everything has to be perfect. Are you ready? Yes, Lena said, even though she wasn't sure. Good. The files are compiled. The evidence is solid. All you have to do is deliver them and walk away. And if they don't accept the deal, they will. I've made sure of it. How? Don't ask questions you don't want answers to. Elena's voice softened slightly. Lena, you're doing the right thing. Am I? Yes. And when this is over, Matteo will understand that. The line went dead. Lena stood in the kitchen, staring at the phone, feeling the weight of the next few hours pressing down on her chest. Matteo appeared in the doorway. It's time, isn't it? He said. She nodded. Then I'm coming with you. No, Lena. This is my deal, she said. Mine. You stay here. You stay safe. Absolutely not. Matteo, please. She moved toward him, grabbed his hands. If you're there, they'll see you as a threat. They'll think it's a trap. But if I go alone, if I deliver what I promised, they'll let me walk away. And then we're free. Or you're dead. I won't be. You don't know that. Yes, she said, her voice steady. I do. He closed his eyes, his head bowing forward until his forehead rested against hers. I hate this, he whispered. I know. If anything happens to you, it won't. Lena, it won't. She kissed him, soft and lingering. Trust me. When she pulled away, his eyes were wet. Come back to me, he said. Always. She left at 7:30. Matteo stood in the doorway, watching her go, his hands clenched at his sides. She didn't look back. If she did, she'd lose her nerve. The drive to the meeting point was 30 minutes. Elena had chosen a public place this time. A park. Crowded. Safe. Smart. Lena parked, grabbed the envelope Elena had given her earlier that day, and walked toward the fountain in the center of the park. The tall man from the warehouse was already there. He stood alone this time. No backup. No guns visible. Just a man in a dark coat, feeding pigeons like he had all the time in the world. Lena approached slowly, her heart pounding. You came, he said without looking at her. I said I would. Most people lie. I'm not most people. He smiled at that. No, you're not. He turned to face her. You have what you promised. She held up the envelope. He took it, opened it, scanned the contents. His expression didn't change, but she saw his jaw tighten. This is good, he said finally. Better than good. This is impressive. Then we have a deal. He looked at her for a long moment. The debt is erased, he said. Carlos Ibarra is forgotten, and Matteo Navarro is off the table. Permanently. Relief flooded through her so intensely she nearly collapsed. Thank you, she breathed. Don't thank me. He tucked the envelope inside his coat. This information saves me a lot of trouble, and a lot of money. So really, I should be thanking you. He started to walk away, then paused. One more thing, he said. What? Navarro doesn't know what you traded for his freedom, does he? She hesitated. No. Good. Keep it that way. His eyes were cold now. Sharp. Because if he finds out what you gave up, it'll destroy him. And that would be a waste. Then he was gone. Lena stood by the fountain, the sound of water and distant laughter washing over her. It was done. They were free. She pulled out her phone, called Matteo. He answered on the first ring. Lena. It's over, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. It's done. We're safe. Silence. Then a sound that might have been a sob. Come home, he said. I'm on my way. If you've ever felt torn between fear and love, you'll understand her. Remember to like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below. Your support keeps stories like this alive. She drove back through the darkness, her hands trembling on the wheel. The tall man's words echoed in her mind. Asterisk, if he finds out what you gave up, it'll destroy him. Asterisk. She pushed the thought away. It didn't matter what she'd traded. It didn't matter what Elena had compiled in that envelope. Truths, lies, secrets that would shift power and destroy lives. All that mattered was that Matteo was safe, that they were free, that they had a future. When she pulled up to the house, he was waiting on the porch. The moment she stepped out of the car, he was there, pulling her into his arms, holding her so tightly she could barely breathe. Don't ever do that again, he said into her hair. Don't ever scare me like that again. I won't, she promised. He pulled back, cupped her face in his hands, searched her eyes. What did you give them? He asked. Her heart stopped. Information, she said carefully. Just like I promised. What kind of information? The kind that keeps us alive. Lena. It's over, Matteo. She covered his hands with hers. That's all that matters. It's over and we're safe and we can finally breathe. He stared at her, and she could see him wrestling with the need to know and the relief of ignorance. Finally, he nodded. Okay, he said. Okay. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of everything they'd survived. When they finally broke apart, he rested his forehead against hers. I love you, he said, more than I've ever loved anything. I love you too. They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in each other, the world quiet around them. And for the first time in weeks, Lena felt something she'd almost forgotten. Peace. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of waking up next to Matteo without fear. 3 weeks of coffee on the porch and quiet evenings by the fire. 3 weeks of pretending that everything was fine. But Lena could feel it. The tension growing beneath Matteo's skin. The questions he wasn't asking. The way his eyes lingered on her when he thought she wasn't looking, searching for something he couldn't name. He knew she was hiding something, and it was eating at him. She tried to ignore it, tried to focus on the good, the way he smiled more now, the way his shoulders had lost some of their weight, the way he touched her like she was something precious. But ignorance was temporary, and truth was patient. It started with a phone call. Lena was in the kitchen when she heard Matteo's voice rise in the study. Sharp, angry. She moved to the doorway, listened. What do you mean she gave you files on the Cordova operation? Matteo's voice was low now. Dangerous. That's impossible. Those files were locked. Encrypted. Silence as he listened. No. Lena wouldn't. She couldn't have. More silence. Then, I'll call you back. The line went dead. Lena's heart hammered against her ribs. She stepped back from the doorway, but it was too late. Matteo emerged, his face pale, his eyes dark with something that looked like betrayal. Lena, he said quietly, we need to talk. They sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where they'd shared breakfast that morning, where he'd smiled at her and told her he was thinking about taking her to the coast next month, just to see the ocean. Now, he looked at her like she was a stranger. The Cordova files, he said. Did you give them to Reyes? She swallowed hard. Who's Reyes? Don't. His voice was sharp. Don't lie to me. Not now. Not about this. She closed her eyes. Yes, she said quietly. The word hung between them like a gunshot. Do you have any idea what you've done? Matteo's voice was shaking now. Those files contain information on one of the largest trafficking networks in the region. People who trusted me. People who traffic human beings, Lena cut in. Children, Matteo. The files Elena gave me were about a trafficking operation. And yes, I gave them up. Because I'm not going to protect monsters. You don't understand. No. She stood, her hands flat on the table. You don't understand. I saw what was in those files. I saw the photos, the evidence, and I made a choice to stop it. By betraying my contacts, by exposing people who trusted me, by doing the right thing. The right thing. He laughed, bitter and hollow. You think there's a right thing in this world? You think exposing one operation changes anything? They'll just move, regroup, find new routes, new victims. All you've done is put a target on everyone connected to me. Then maybe you were connected to the wrong people. The words hit him like a slap. He stayed at her, his jaw working, his hands curled into fists on the table. Get out, he said quietly. She blinked. What? Get out. His voice was cold now, empty. I want you out of this house. Matteo. Now. She packed her bag in silence. Her hands shook as she folded clothes, grabbed toiletries, shoved everything into the duffel she'd arrived with weeks ago. Matteo didn't come upstairs, didn't try to stop her. When she came back down, he was standing by the door, his face carved from stone. I saved you, she said, her voice breaking. I saved you from becoming someone you'd hate. No, he opened the door. You made me someone I already am, and then you judged me for it. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Lena. You should know that by now. She wanted to scream at him, wanted to make him understand. But looking at his face, she knew it wouldn't matter. He'd already decided. She walked past him, out into the cold night air. Behind her, the door closed. The sound of it, final, absolute, shattered something inside her chest. She stood there for a long moment, staring at the house that had become her sanctuary, her prison, her home. Then she got in the car Elena had left for her and drove away. She went to Elena's cabin. The older woman took one look at her face and pulled her inside without a word. He knows, Lena said, her voice hollow. I figured he would. Elena poured her tea. Matteo's not stupid. He was always going to piece it together. He hates me. He hates himself. Elena sat down across from her. He's been trying to walk the line between his world and something better for years. You forced him to choose, and he doesn't know how to live with that choice. So what do? You give him time, or you let him go. Lena looked down at her tea, watching steam curl into the air. I don't know how to let him go, she whispered. Then you wait. Elena's voice was gentle. And you hope that love is stronger than pride. A week passed. Then two. Lena stayed at the cabin, helped Elena with whatever she needed, tried to build some semblance of a life. But every night, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering if Matteo was doing the same. On the 16th day, her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Lena. Her breath caught. Matteo. Silence. Then, can we talk? Yes. The word came out as a gasp. Yes, of course. Meet me at the house. Tomorrow. Noon. I'll be there. The line went dead. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, her phone clutched in her hand, tears streaming down her face. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in 2 weeks, she had hope. Lena arrived at the house at 11:30. Too early, but she couldn't wait. She parked in the driveway, stayed at the door she'd walked through dozens of times. It looked different now. distant, like something from a memory rather than her life. She didn't knock. The door was unlocked. Inside, everything was the same. The books on the shelves, the fireplace with fresh ash, the kitchen that smelled faintly of coffee. But it felt emptier, colder. Matteo was standing by the window, his back to her. "You came," he said without turning around. "You asked me to." He nodded slowly. Then he turned to face her. He looked different, thinner, the shadows under his eyes deeper, his hair longer, unkempt. He looked like a man who hadn't slept in weeks. "I need to tell you something," he said. "Okay." "When you left, I was angry, furious. I felt betrayed." He paused, his jaw working. "But after you were gone, I started looking into the files you gave up, really looking, and I found things I'd chosen not to see before." Lena held her breath. "The code of her operation," he continued. "I knew it was dirty. I knew they were trafficking. But I told myself it wasn't my business, that I couldn't save everyone, that staying neutral kept me alive." He moved toward her, slowly. "You were right," he said, his voice breaking. "I was connected to the wrong people, and I was too much of a coward to admit it." "Matteo, let me finish." He stopped a few feet away. "After Reyes took down the operation, they found 32 children. 32 kids who would have been sold, abused, destroyed. And they are alive because of what you did." Tears blurred her vision. "You saved them," he said. "And you saved me from being complicit in their suffering. And I threw you out for it." "You were hate," she whispered. "I was selfish." He reached out, hesitated, then took her hand. "I'm so sorry, Lena, for what I said, for how I reacted, for making you feel like you did something wrong when you did the only right thing." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "I don't deserve you," he continued. "I know that. But if you'll let me, I want to spend the rest of my life trying to be the man you believed I could be." "Matteo, I love you." His hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing away her tears. "I love you more than I've ever loved anything. And I'm asking you, begging you, to give me another chance." She looked at him, really looked, at the pain in his eyes, the hope, the fear. "You hate me," she said quietly. "I know. You pushed me away when I needed you most. I know. And if I come back, if I give you this chance, you have to promise me something. Anything. No more secrets. No more choosing between me and your world. We face everything together, or we don't do this at all." He nodded. "Together. I promise." She pulled him into her arms, and he held her like she was the only thing keeping him standing. "I love you," she whispered into his chest. "I love you too." His voice was thick with emotion. "So much." They stood like that for a long time. Two broken people, piecing each other back together in the quiet space between forgiveness and forever. The weeks that followed were different. Matteo started pulling away from the life he'd known. He severed ties with contacts he couldn't trust. He handed information to Elena, who quietly passed it to the right people: law enforcement, advocacy groups, anyone who could make a difference. It wasn't easy. He lost money, lost connections, lost the power he'd spent years building. But he gained something more important: peace. And Lena was there through all of it. They rebuilt their life together, slowly, carefully, with honesty that hurt sometimes but healed more. They talked about Sophia, about Carlos, about all the ways their pasts had shaped them. They learned to trust again, not blindly, but consciously, with intention. And somewhere along the way, the house in the woods stopped feeling like a hiding place. It became a home. 3 months after their reconciliation, Matteo woke Lena in the middle of the night. "Come with me," he said. "Where?" "Just trust me." She followed him outside, onto the porch. The night was clear, the sky scattered with stars. He pulled her close, wrapped his arms around her from behind. "I've been thinking," he said. "About what?" "About the future. About what comes next." She leaned back against his chest. And I want to leave." He felt her tense, continued quickly. "Not leave you. Leave this. The city. The life. I want to start over somewhere new. Somewhere clean." She turned in his arms to face him. "Where would we go?" "Anywhere." His eyes were bright, hopeful. "The coast. The mountains. Another country. It doesn't matter, as long as we're together." "You'd really do that?" "For you." He smiled. "I'd do anything." She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. "Then let's go," she whispered. "Let's disappear together." "Yeah. Yeah." He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "We'll leave in a week," he said. "Just enough time to settle things here." "A week," she agreed. They stood on the porch, wrapped in each other, staring out at the stars. And for the first time since that voice note changed everything, Lena felt something she'd thought she'd lost forever. Hope for a future that wasn't built on running, but on choosing. On love. They left on a Tuesday morning. The house was empty now, stripped of personal belongings. The books were gone, the photos packed away. Only the furniture remained, waiting for whatever came next. Lena stood in the living room one last time, looking at the space that had held so much. Fear, pain, love, healing. "Ready?" Matteo asked from the doorway. She turned to him. He looked lighter now, younger, the weight of his past finally beginning to lift. "Ready," she said. They drove south, away from the city, away from the woods, away from everything they'd been. They didn't have a destination. Not really. Just a direction and the promise of something new. They stopped in small towns, ate at diners where no one knew their names, slept in motels with thin walls and creaky beds, and every mile they put between themselves and their past felt like freedom. 2 weeks into their journey, they found a town by the ocean. Small, quiet, the kind of place where people minded their business and strangers were just future neighbors. They rented a cottage on the edge of town. Nothing fancy, just a small house with a view of the water and enough distance from the world to breathe. Matteo got a job at the marina. Manual labor. Boats and ropes and the smell of salt air. It was honest work. Simple work. It made him tired in a good way. Lena found work at a bookstore in town. Shelves to stock. Customers to help. Stories to recommend. It wasn't the life either of them had imagined. It was better. 6 months after they arrived, Matteo asked her to marry him. They were walking on the beach at sunset. The waves crashed against the shore. Gulls called overhead. He didn't get down on one knee. Didn't make a grand gesture. He just stopped, took her hand, and said, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Officially." She laughed through tears. "That's the worst proposal I've ever heard." "It's the only one you're getting." "Then yes." She kissed him. "Yes, yes, yes." They got married the next month. Small ceremony. Just them and Elena, who made the trip down to witness it. No fancy dress. No elaborate reception. Just vows spoken on the beach at dawn, with the ocean as their witness. When Elena hugged Lena goodbye, she whispered, "Sophia would have loved you." And Lena knew it was the highest compliment she'd ever receive. A year passed. Then, too, life became routine in the best possible way. Mornings with coffee on the porch. Days spent working. Evenings cooking dinner together. Nights wrapped in each other's arms. They talked about everything. And nothing. They learned each other in ways they hadn't had time for before. The small things. The daily rhythms. The comfortable silences. Matteo smiled more. Laughed easier. The ghosts that had haunted his eyes slowly faded. Lena stopped looking over her shoulder. Stopped jumping at unexpected sounds. Stopped waiting for the other shoe to drop. They were safe. They were happy. They were home. On the third anniversary of the day Lena sent that voice note, they sat on the beach at sunset. Do you ever think about it? Matteo asked. That night. Sometimes, Lena said. Do you? All the time. He picked up a handful of sand, let it slip through his fingers. If you hadn't sent that message to the wrong number, we never would have met. I'd still be who I was. And I'd still be drowning. He turned to look at her. Do you regret any of it? She thought about that. About the fear, the danger, the pain. About standing in that warehouse with a gun pointed at her head. About watching him walk away, thinking she'd lost him forever. About all the ways they'd hurt each other and healed each other and chosen each other again and again. No, she said finally. I don't regret any of it. Not even the scary parts. Especially not the scary parts. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Because they led me here. To you. To this. He kissed the top of her head. I used to think I was saving you, he said quietly. But really, you saved me. We saved each other. Yeah. He pulled her closer. We did. They stayed on the beach until the stars came out, until the tide came in and kissed their feet, until the world faded away and there was nothing left but the two of them and the endless sky. And in that moment, Lena understood something she'd spent her whole life searching for. That love wasn't always safe, wasn't always easy, wasn't always what you expected. Sometimes love was a voice note sent to a stranger in the middle of the night. Sometimes it was a man who saw you at your lowest and chose to stay. Sometimes it was choosing each other, over and over, even when it hurt. Sometimes love was messy and complicated and born from mistakes. But when it was real, when it was true, it was worth every terrifying, beautiful moment. She looked at Matteo, at the man who had been her captor and her savior and her home. I love you, she said. I love you too, he replied. And they sat there, two people who had found each other in the darkness, grateful for every moment that had led them here, to the quiet after the storm, to the peace they'd fought so hard to find, to forever. If stories like this linger in your heart long after they end, don't leave just yet. Like, comment, subscribe, and check the description box below, and let the next story find you when the night grows quiet again.